You've found yourself someplace strange. The corridors resemble those of a hotel, or maybe a large office building. Yellow wallpaper, cheap carpet, room after featureless room, all almost identical to each other. Unfurnished, empty. No furniture, no decorative plants, not even a soulless corporate art piece to break up the monotony. Every time you turn a corner, you find what looks like the exact same hallway stretching out before you. Don't ask how you got here. There's no way to explain it. It was as if you fell through the world, through a glitch in reality, into somewhere behind the scenes that you were never meant to see. And just as there was no entrance, no matter how far you travel, how many strangely angled turns you take, how many bizarrely small or impossibly tall flights of stairs you climb, you are never going to find the exit, because there simply is none. Welcome to your new eternity, trapped here, in the Backrooms. Okay, normally we put a little sponsor plug here. This is what I mentioned in passing, so you're not surprised when it comes up later. But this time is very different. Our sponsor for this video isn't trying to sell you anything at all. Not even sort of. They're a non-profit organization called 80,000 Hours, and their entire mission is to help you find the most meaningful, most fulfilling career you possibly can. They've done all the research for you. They've made guides, podcasts, job listings, everything you could want, all entirely for free, because they believe that when people are doing things that actually matter to them, things that make a real difference in the world becomes a far better place, far faster. It's still kind of hard to wrap my head around the fact that they're literally paying us to help you get access to this free tool that could change your entire life, but there it is. What a weird, wonderful thing. Please, take this opportunity. Who knows when it will come again? Visit 80,000hours.org/talefoundry to get started. The Backrooms are an internet phenomenon that began as a single photograph and a bit of text back in 2019. If you're not careful, the text reads, and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of the mono-yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. It was originally just some throwaway post on 4chan, but that was enough. This simple idea so captivated the minds of its audience that it quickly unfurled into a sprawling body of competing canons, each offering up different ideas about what the Backrooms are, how to expand on them, what makes them scary. Some versions are just sort of off-putting. Some will chill your blood in your veins. One very popular approach to describing the Backrooms gives them different levels, each with their own defining aesthetics. Hotel hallways, maintenance corridors, parking garages, indoor pools, cubicle farms, even fancy ballrooms find a way into the mix sometimes. If you look, there are loads of videos on YouTube where people try to list off and describe the different levels, almost like a weird sort of survival guide. Speaking of which, the idea of entities living inside of the Backrooms is also pretty popular in the extended fandom. People like to imagine colonies of lost survivors forever trapped in this place. There's also no shortage of entities, strange life forms which could only ever belong in a place like the Backrooms. You can find them documented painstakingly within their own SCP-style wiki, but perhaps the single most popular and simultaneously controversial of all editions? The Monster, a creature of some kind stalking the endless expanse of the Backrooms, hunting down those unlucky enough to find their way inside. There's one insanely popular adaptation in particular that really emphasizes this monster idea, the famous YouTube series by visual effects whiz-kid Kane Pixels. I've heard A24 might even be making a movie about it, but I don't know anything else about it myself. At any rate, the monster shows up very early on in the series in a video that, as of right now, has over 56 million views. It's tall and scribbly and sort of out of focus, A bit like Slender Man if he were colored in by a toddler with a black crayon, which is not a criticism, it's a legitimately freaky look. You can barely catch glimpses of it between the walls and around corners. Most of the creature's finer features are lost to the camera's frantic motions as the victim tries to escape. It adds a lot to the immediate horror. It's a creepy, well-executed monster, but it's not why the Backrooms are scary. The Backrooms are scary because they are the monster. And I mean that in a far more literal sense than you might think. Have you ever noticed that places seem to have their own kind of personality? Look at an image of a savanna against a fiery red sunset and contrast that with the stark emptiness of the surface of the moon. They just feel so different, don't they? And it's not just the qualities of the image either. The coloration, the framing, the visual organization of the piece, those all contribute a great deal, but beneath it, you identify something about the places themselves. Even if you've never been there, you feel emotions associated with the imagery. You might call the savanna bold or passionate. You might call the moon lonesome, empty. These are the emotions you feel about the place, but you also give them to the place, as if the place itself is feeling them, and you're only empathizing with that. And that effect? It's only compounded when it happens to be a place that someone made. For artificial places in particular, there's this extra layer of personhood. The way people have designed the place, the way that they've used it. A gritty, clanking factory filled with bustling workers in grease-stained coveralls feels different from a sleek, futuristic one filled with shiny chrome and scientists in white lab coats bustling back and forth through sets of quietly swooshing Star Trek doors. But even without people there to speak for them, these places still speak. The grease and rust tell a story of sweat-fueled, brute force industry. The chrome and sleek white surfaces speak of refinement, innovation. Just like the savanna and the moon, to any onlooker, these two places seem to have distinct personalities, all their own. But there is one element that these two have that the savanna and the moon don't. We think about people as a part of them. Whether they're there or not, we feel their presence, and we certainly feel their absence. Because without the people who the place got its character from, the character of the place changes. We'll circle around to the Backrooms soon, but for now, I want to tell you about the video game What Remains of Edith Finch. Trust me, this matters. In the game, the player character, Edith, returns to her childhood home, which was abandoned after her grandmother's death. Several generations of her family have lived here, and almost every single one of them have died young. Most of them were taken by tragic, freak accidents. Like a curse, just one child out of every Finch generation is spared this fate. Edith is one of them. Rather than clear out the old bedrooms left behind by each departure, Edith's grandmother made new space in the home by tacking addition after addition onto it until the building became a monstrous, rickety tower standing above the foggy Washington treetops. The rooms of the dead are preserved, sealed up and fitted with a peephole to allow the living to look inside, see the untouched remains of the lives these places once held, beds left unmade, books and clothing and drawings scattered about. The body may be gone, but each room is a mausoleum for the soul. Walking through the Finch home is a special experience. In fact, it's basically all you do in the game. Walk around. But as you make your way through the maze-like interior, each room undisturbed since the last time its master called it home, you get a sense of the lives they contained. Not just of the individual occupants, but the family as a whole, the way they were connected. The shadow of the maybe real, maybe not curse, looming over them like the blade of a guillotine, which could claim any one of them at any moment. And eventually, one by one, it did claim all of them. And the house, built for the family, its very construction an intimate reflection of both their lives and their deaths, their old stories baked into every wall and floorboard, stands empty. Without a Finch in it, it is forever unfulfilled, yearning, hungry. I bring this up not because What Remains of Edith Finch is a great game, although it is and everyone should absolutely go play it. I bring it up because this is actually the story of every home in its way. No, not every house is so tragic. Most of them don't end up teetering castles in the clouds full of death. But every house is designed to hold humans and their stories. And over time, inevitably, the stories are all that remain. ghosts in the shape of furniture, abandoned belongings, footprints in the dust. Even the stains on the wallpaper tell a story. But without anyone to give voice to those stories, they remain mysterious and distant, characterizing the place not by what you know about it, but by what you don't. The emptiness takes over. The hunger is all that's left. To paraphrase author Anne Lamott, every home is a future ruin. This is almost but not quite, the feeling of the Backrooms. They have the same hunger, the same characteristic emptiness, but it goes deeper than that too. Unless you've been chronically offline for the last 4 years, you've probably heard the term liminal spaces. They're basically the location equivalent of the uncanny valley. Building on the popularity of the Backrooms back in 2019, a liminal space is a place that feels somehow transitional or impermanent. Hallways, hotel rooms, pool areas, dead shopping malls, places you probably recognize to some extent because you feel like maybe you might have visited them at some point. They call back to memories that most people probably have, and now you're seeing them empty, abandoned, stripped, shrouded in darkness. The media which liminal spaces are usually captured on reflects these qualities. The photographs people take of them are out of focus, video footage grainy or damaged. It's almost as if someone went into your memories and edited the humanity out of them. A disquieting mockery of nostalgia. One striking feature of liminal spaces is that they are, like homes, almost always artificial. But, unlike homes, they also lack the ghosts. They don't have the detritus of lives illustrating what the place's character once was, because nobody was ever meant to live in them. They don't belong to anyone. Without people, they are fundamentally characterless. In some cases, the construction even suggests, eerily, that they were never really for people at all. Look at this picture of slides at an indoor entertainment center. Sure, it's empty and the lighting could be better, but in concept, it's pretty similar to those hallways, hotel rooms, dead malls, right? Just another abandoned place. But it makes you feel somehow different looking at it, right? A little uneasy. If you've ever seen a normal slide bank before, like this one, you might be able to put it together. Those slides? They're a little steep for children, aren't they? And the tunnels don't quite connect to the tops, as if nobody stopped to think about what it would actually be like to ride one of these things. And where do those tunnels even come from anyway? And why is the floor carpet but the wall tile? Why is the sky mural so narrow? Why is the ceiling so low? This place is wrong. You might not be able to articulate why immediately, but you know it at a glance. And you're right to feel that way, because this place is also not real. It's a 3D render designed specifically to elicit that feeling in you. Liminal spaces are places that have been left alone for so long, or stripped so bare, or are just so strange that it's hard to imagine what their purpose ever was. They seem devoid of meaning and character. It's almost like looking at a person without a face. If an abandoned home is hungry for someone to inhabit it, then these places are starved. And that does actually get pretty close to describing the character of the Backrooms, but it's not what makes them monstrous. The book House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski is wild, with cascading layers of narrative, footnotes and appendices that drag you back and forth across hundreds of pages of text, conflicting accounts of the same stories, pages formatted so cryptically that you're tempted just to dismiss them out of hand. The book itself is pretty much a labyrinth. It draws you in, and with precious little in the way of a true conclusion or explanation of its contents, threatens to keep you there forever, trying to make sense of it all. But suffice to say this, at the center of the story is a house that makes no sense, a house whose dimensions change seemingly at random, a house in which doors appear in walls without warning, a house with a labyrinth inside it. The further you travel into it, the stranger it becomes. A deepening darkness, a rising cold, impossibly long corridors without ceilings, a massive stairway that spirals downward into blackness for miles. At one point, a character manages to break through one of the walls in an attempt to get out, only to find an exact copy of that room on the other side, and one beyond that. And in the background of it all, a low growl, a sound like a hungry beast rattling in your ears, making you think that the place itself is getting ready to eat you at any moment. That is what the Backrooms feel like to me. Not just hungry, not just starved. The Backrooms are a space that eats. And I don't mean like the house in Monster House. I'm not trying to say that the Backrooms are alive. I'm just saying that, unlike the Finch house, unlike liminal spaces, one of the most important features of the Backrooms is that they can, in a sense, eat. They consume anyone who enters and never let them back out. In fact, eating is practically all the Backrooms can do. They've never been filled with life or people. They never had any function that was corrupted, any character that eroded with time. Like that image of the slides, they don't make any sense. They're vaguely familiar, we can imagine them having been built, but they're also not for people. In fact, with their senseless and confusing architecture, it almost seems as if there was never any possibility of a purpose for that place at all, except for one, of course. One and only one thing, which the Backrooms do extremely well. Eat. To trap you inside and let you wander, forever lost. You cannot make them your own, you cannot characterize them. They are characterized by your torment. In a sense, they are the purest incarnation of any hungry space, almost like the platonic ideal of one, untethered to anything else but their hunger. And this is why the Backrooms don't need a monster. It's redundant for some creature to chase you through their halls, hunt you down and eat you, because by the time you find yourself here, you've already been eaten. Sometimes life can feel a little like the Backrooms, an infinite purgatory of meaningless, manufactured space designed simply to hold you captive. I've heard some people describe the Backrooms and liminal spaces as an interesting analog for the endless hunger of capitalism, and I can see where they're coming from. Most people spend about 80,000 hours of their life just working, doing tasks to get money to pay for expenses. Don't you wish sometimes that you could just get out of that grind? Spend that time to make a difference in the world? There has to be a way to work your career, earn your bread, and feel like your existence is meaningful at the same time, right? A better way to spend those 80,000 hours? Well, I'm here to tell you that there is. And this barely counts as a sponsor spot because there's no sell, no product, nothing at all for you to spend your money on. This really is me purely telling you that there's a shockingly easy way to make a real impact on the world. Find work that really does create change. Let me introduce you to 80,000 Hours, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping you make the most of your 80,000 career hours. They've been doing this for over 10 years now, have already helped over 1,000 people find their calling, and have so many resources just waiting for you to lay hold of. With the help of hundreds of experts and academic organizations, they've studied tirelessly to figure out what career paths stand to make the biggest impact on the world, and they've laid out how to access them as well. Turns out you don't have to be a doctor or a teacher or a charity worker to change lives. Maybe you want to be an AI safety advisor, working in a lab and making sure the robots don't get out of hand. Or maybe you want to make a career out of addressing climate change. No shortage of hands needed there. And if you're still trying to understand what issues matter most to you personally, where you want to spend your time trying to make an impact, the website is loaded with educational materials as well. From a free guide that they give you right on the landing page of the website, to an incredibly good podcast where they interview experts from every field, to one-on-one calls with impartial advisors for those who've already taken the first steps to their career, this site is built to change your life. And I can't stress enough that literally everything they offer is free. Visit 80,000hours.org/TaleFoundry to get started. An absolutely massive thanks to them for giving us the opportunity to tell you about this thing they've created for you. Definitely one of the coolest sponsors we've had on the show. I really hope you'll give it a look. Again, that's 80,000hours.org patreon.com/talefoundry. Imagine reclaiming 80,000 hours of your life, turning all that time from mindless labor just to put food on the shelves to something you feel passionate about, something that changes the world. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye!